Salmon fishing is an activity that requires both high technology and is greatly influenced by nature. Salmon are migratory fish. They usually live in the sea but return to freshwater to reproduce. Therefore, salmon fishing is often focused on the seasons when they swim upstream. Fishermen must master the seasonal migration habits of fish. Know when the salmon return to choose the appropriate location and time. There are many different methods to catch salmon, the most popular of which are fishing with a hand rod or using a net. When fishing, people often use artificial baits that simulate the shape or movement of live bait to attract salmon to bite. Choosing the right hook and fishing line is also very important because salmon are often strong and easily struggle. So it is easy to break the line or drop the bait if the equipment is not sturdy enough. In addition, catching salmon with a net is also very popular, especially in large estuaries. Specialized nets are released, adjusting the depth and current to catch salmon schools on their way upstream. In addition, some areas also use fish traps or traditional fishing methods that have been passed down through generations. However, salmon fishing today must strictly comply with regulations to protect aquatic resources. In many places, authorities require fishing licenses, limit catches or only allow fishing during certain times to avoid overfishing and help maintain wild salmon populations. The combination of traditional experience and modern management measures is the key factor for salmon fishing to be both economically efficient and ensure sustainability for the ecosystem. Among the methods of salmon fishing, sport fishing is considered the technique that requires the most patience and skill. Anglers must be knowledgeable about each type of salmon such as chinook, sockeye or coho to choose the appropriate bait and fishing method. Commonly used baits include small fish-shaped lures, flashing lures that reflect light, or soft lures with special scents to attract fish from a distance. When the salmon bites, the angler must quickly but gently jerk the rod so that the hook sticks firmly in the fish's mouth. While skillfully controlling the fishing line to both tire the fish and avoid breaking the line. The process of pulling the fish to shore or onto the boat must be done very carefully because salmon are very strong, can struggle violently and can easily slip away if careless. For the net fishing method, people often use barrier nets or drag nets depending on the terrain and water current. In narrow rivers, barrier nets are stretched across the stream to block the path of the salmon. While in wider waters, drag nets can be released in an arc and gradually retracted to gather the fish in one spot. In some cases, small boats will assist in releasing and retrieving the nets to better control the movement of the fish. Netters must carefully calculate wind direction, current speed and fish migration time to achieve optimal efficiency. In addition, in shallow waters, fixed fish traps are also designed along the natural migration routes of salmon. These traps are often funnel-shaped, leading fish in but making it difficult to escape, allowing safe harvesting and limiting fish damage. Today, to support the fishing process, many fishermen also use technological equipment such as fish-finding radar, GPS locators or underwater cameras to accurately track the migration routes of salmon. However, no matter how modern the method is, the key factor is still a deep understanding of the biological characteristics and habitat of this fish species. Salmon fishing is not simply a livelihood but also an art of harmony between humans and nature, requiring respect and high responsibility for natural resources. Therefore, salmon fishing is not only an economic activity but also closely linked to the culture and traditions of many coastal and riverine communities, especially in countries such as the United States, Canada, Japan and the Nordic countries. In many local festivals, the image of salmon overcoming rapids and upstream symbolizes resilience and vitality. And also reflects people's pride in the natural resources they are preserving. In some places, salmon population recovery programs have been implemented, such as building fish ladders at dams, restoring spawning habitats, and releasing young salmon into the wild to ensure sustainable fishing seasons in the future. This shows that modern salmon fishing is inseparable from ecological conservation and sustainable development. In the future, the harmonious combination of traditional experience, advanced technology and strict resource management policies will be the main direction for salmon fishing to continue to develop without reducing this precious natural resource. Each salmon caught is not only the result of labor but also a symbol of human understanding, appreciation and long-term commitment to the sea and rivers. It is from these persistent efforts that salmon fishing truly has profound meaning, not only economically but also culturally, environmentally and ethically in the relationship between humans and nature, in addition to traditional fishing activities. Salmon farming in freshwater and saltwater farms is also growing strongly to meet the increasing consumption demand of the global market. However, wild salmon still holds a special value not only because of its delicious taste but also because of the ecological significance it brings. Each season, salmon spawning upstream is an essential link in the natural food chain, helping to maintain the balance of river and ocean ecosystems. Salmon carcasses after spawning are an important source of nutrition for other animals such as bears and birds of prey, as well as providing nutrients for the soil, helping forests grow stronger. Therefore, controlled salmon fishing not only serves economic interests but also contributes to protecting large ecosystems associated with the lives of many other living species. Nowadays, in the context of climate change and environmental pollution, protecting the migration of salmon has become an urgent task. Dams, sand mining, water pollution and rising water temperatures have drastically reduced the number of wild salmon in many places. To cope with this situation, environmental organizations and fishing communities have coordinated to implement many projects to restore natural flows, improve water quality, and build safe migration corridors for salmon. This shows that, to maintain sustainable salmon fishing, people must act not only for immediate benefits but also for the long-term future of nature. The journey of catching salmon, from understanding the biological cycle of fish, choosing appropriate techniques, to participating in environmental conservation, is a vivid expression of the close relationship between humans and nature. It is not only a job but also an art, a responsibility, and a valuable cultural heritage that needs to be respected, preserved and promoted in today's era with these profound meanings. Salmon fishing today is not simply about exploiting natural resources but also associated with the lesson of harmony, respect and sharing between people and the living environment. Salmon fishermen, whether coastal fishermen, experienced fishermen or environmental researchers, Understand that each salmon brought up must be accompanied by careful consideration of the limits of nature. The success of salmon fishing is not only measured by the harvest but also by the way the community maintains the long-term stability of the salmon population in the future. Therefore, in many areas of the world, the principles of catch and release in sport fishing are strongly encouraged to minimize negative impacts on fish populations. Strict standards are also set for the size of fish that can be caught, the maximum number of fish per day, or the use of fishing equipment that is friendly to fish to limit damage to small fish or fish during the spawning period. These regulations, although sometimes difficult for fishermen, are a guarantee for a sustainable future, where salmon continue to play an important role in nature and in human life. In general, salmon fishing is a rich activity, both technical and artistic, and imbued with a sense of responsibility to nature. From preparing tools, choosing methods, complying with conservation regulations to deeply understanding the biological habits of fish, all contribute to creating a fishing process that is both sustainable and meaningful. Salmon, with its arduous journey upstream, has become an immortal symbol of vitality and endurance, and the journey to catch them is also a testament to the persistent efforts of humans in linking economic benefits with environmental protection. Thanks to these tireless efforts, in many places around the world, natural salmon stocks have gradually recovered, providing a stable source of livelihood for fishing communities while maintaining ecological balance for river and coastal systems. The image of schools of salmon swimming upstream through turbulent waterfalls to complete their reproductive life cycle has become a sacred symbol, reminding people of the strength of perseverance, the will to live and the close connection between all things in nature. Salmon are not only a valuable food source but also a bridge between people and nature. Between tradition and modernity, between exploitation and conservation. Therefore, salmon fishing should not be seen as an economic sector or a recreational activity, but also as part of a shared responsibility for the future of the planet. Everyone involved in this activity, from fishermen, managers to consumers, has a role to play in protecting and sustainably developing natural resources. When people know how to limit exploitation, respect natural biological cycles and invest in protecting the habitat for salmon, we are preserving for future generations the opportunity to witness salmon seasons, vibrant rivers and a green earth full of hope. Therefore, salmon fishing is not only a story of the present, but also a long-term journey of consciousness, love of nature and responsibility for the precious things that nature has bestowed upon mankind. Although conservation efforts have achieved many significant achievements, the protection and sustainable exploitation of salmon still faces many challenges. Global climate change is changing the temperature of rivers and seas, greatly affecting the natural migration and reproduction cycles of salmon. At the same time, economic development activities such as the construction of hydroelectric dams, mineral exploitation or riverside urbanization are continuously narrowing and degrading their habitat. Increasing pressure from the international consumer market also poses the risk of overfishing without strict regulations and monitoring mechanisms. Therefore, in the coming time, salmon fishing needs to be placed in a comprehensive strategy, closely combining exploitation, aquaculture, conservation and community education. Scientific programs on breeding, restoring natural fish populations, improving the quality of living environments and monitoring the impacts of climate change need to be invested in and implemented synchronously. At the same time, it is necessary to raise awareness among local communities and global consumers about the importance of consuming salmon responsibly. Supporting products with sustainable certification and encouraging environmentally friendly fishing models. Only when every small action from fishing to consumption is carried out with understanding and responsibility can we ensure that salmon will continue to swim upstream in the future, continuing to write the magical story of resilience and the eternal connection between nature and humans. Salmon fishing is therefore not only a professional activity, but also part of the journey to preserve life, protect the pristine beauty of rivers and the longevity of nature in a world that is constantly changing. From these profound meanings, salmon fishing not only reflects a pure labor relationship but also becomes a part of the cultural symbol and pride of many communities around the world. Stories about salmon crossing the rapids, traditional salmon festivals, and strict fishing rules passed down from generation to generation have enriched local identity and built a strong bond between people and rivers and oceans. In many places, images of salmon are also carved into works of art. Depicted in folk paintings, closely associated with the consciousness and spiritual life of indigenous people. This shows that salmon fishing is not only a skill or a livelihood, but also a continuation of long-standing cultural values, a testament to the process of people learning, adapting, and respecting the immutable laws of nature. Each salmon season not only brings abundant food but also brings hope for regeneration, the strength of perseverance and solidarity. Therefore, protecting salmon also means protecting a part of the soul of many cultures. Protecting precious memories and knowledge that have been distilled from thousands of years of history of living together with nature. Today, when environmental and social challenges are posing urgent demands for sustainable development, the story of salmon fishing has become more relevant and practical than ever. Preserving salmon means preserving for us a future where people, nature and culture can still coexist and develop harmoniously in a changing world without losing the core values that make up their identity every salmon season. The river seems to be filled with new life, and people also have more faith in the longevity of nature. The image of schools of salmon bravely overcoming the rapids, fighting tirelessly to find their place to spawn, has become an eternal symbol of strength, endurance and indomitable spirit. It is also a silent but profound reminder that nature always has a way to revive strongly if people know how to appreciate and protect it. Salmon fishing, therefore, is no longer just a simple economic activity, but has become a connection between the past and the present, between people and nature, between exploitation and conservation. In each net, each fish, there is not only material value but also moral responsibility and awareness of sustainable preservation for future generations. That is the choice that modern humans must make. Choose between continuing to exploit blindly or joining hands to build a way of exploiting in harmony with nature, so that salmon seasons are not just memories, but forever a vivid reality on the green rivers of the world. Salmon fishing is an activity that is not simply about harvesting a valuable aquatic resource but also contains many elements of culture, ecology and responsibility towards nature. This profession requires participants to have extensive knowledge of the natural habits of salmon, Understand the migration and reproductive cycles of this fish species in order to be able to apply appropriate fishing methods. Both protecting natural resources and ensuring a long-term source of income. Salmon, with their arduous and resilient journey upstream, have become a symbol of strong vitality and perseverance, one of the admirable natural wonders. In addition, salmon fishing also reflects a close relationship between humans and the living environment, where people not only seek economic benefits but also need to be responsible for protecting and maintaining the sustainability of natural resources. Therefore, in the context of climate change and the decline of natural ecosystems, salmon fishing activities are becoming more and more complicated. Environmental protection regulations and conservation of aquatic resources need to be strictly enforced to avoid overfishing. And advanced scientific and technological measures are needed to help improve the recovery of wild salmon populations. Salmon fishing is not only a story of today, but also a long journey towards the future. A future in which humans and nature can coexist in harmony, developing sustainably without harming the planet's precious resources. The balance between exploitation and conservation, between economic benefits and environmental responsibility, will determine the survival of this industry and the future of marine species, including salmon. Therefore, each catch, each season of salmon returning is not only a result of labor but also a testament to the spirit of protecting and preserving natural resources of humans, so that salmon schools can forever go upstream to reproduce and develop in a clean and sustainable environment. Salmon fishing is not only an economic activity but also reflects the close relationship between humans and nature. Salmon, with its arduous journey upstream to reproduce, not only provides a valuable food source but also symbolizes strong vitality and resilience. This fishing process requires a deep understanding of nature, the migration and reproduction cycle of salmon, thereby applying reasonable exploitation methods to both ensure resources and protect the natural habitat. Along with the development of technology and market demand, salmon fishing activities are becoming increasingly complex and facing many great challenges. Climate change and the destruction of marine habitats are causing salmon populations to decline. This not only affects the number of salmon in the wild but also has a direct impact on the livelihoods of fishermen who depend on this profession. Therefore, the application of conservation measures and strict control of fishing activities, combined with scientific research on the restoration of salmon habitats, is a prerequisite for protecting this resource. Salmon fishing is not only a story of the present but also a responsibility for the future.